Derek Givner along with Michael Carter from the USTA, and we're here to learn to bet harness racing. This is the trip handicapping segment. You might say, what is trip handicapping? Well, it's basically the art of figuring out where the horses are going to be during the race. And one of those factors comes down to trip handicapping by track size. And we're going to put up a little graphic up on the screen so you can see what we're talking about. And then, as you can see, Michael, the first kind of track we have up there is mile tracks or 7/8 track.
Yeah, that's where you see a lot of your larger fields, some of the 11 and 12 horse fields. And, you know, there's a lot less trip handicapping on the mile track. It allows horses to get into a better position. They've got the run up to the first turn is a lot bigger on the mile tracks.
Yeah, and it just makes it harder to figure out where the positioning is going to be. On smaller tracks, it's easier to figure out a horse is going to leave from the gate and then settle in, whereas on a mile track, there's a lot more mid-race action, so you really can't tell exactly where everyone's going to be. Second type of track we have is the 5/8 track, and it's a little bit easier to trip handicap, I think, but not maybe as easy as it is on a half-mile track. We're going to take a look at a video just to show you a little intricate thing about a half-mile track. Look at the way the gate is. You see how the gate's tilted to the outside? It favors the outside. A lot of 5/8 track have these slanted starting gates.
Yeah, that's why you see a lot of the positions, Derek, like 4, 5, and 6 be the winningest post on tracks like Pocono and Harris, Philadelphia, is because of that slanted starting gate.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. And the final thing we're going to talk about is the half-mile tracks. And on the half-mile tracks, it really should be easier to figure out where everyone's going to be. I put it at about 75% of the time. You should be able to look at the race and say, this horse is going to be on the lead, this horse is going to be second, this horse is going to be third, kind of thing.
Yeah, depending on the half-mile track, speed is very favoring on a lot of the half-mile tracks like Northfield, where I used to work. And the inside posts do really well, post 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you get the 8-hole, it's not a death sentence per se, but it's a lot harder to win from out there.
Another thing about the half-mile tracks is some of them have passing lanes, some of them don't. So if you go to Yonkers Raceway, there's no passing lane. And what passing lane is the horse who's sitting in second has the opportunity to go up the inside lane that develops just at the top of the stretch. Yonkers doesn't have it, Northfield does.
Yes, Northfield does, and you see a lot of horses that will ride the pocket. We'll show you what that is in just a few minutes. And they'll ride the pocket, come up the inside, and try to shoot the gap and come to victory.
We're going to move on to our second slide, and that's the types of trips. And as you can see up there, there's numerous different kinds of trips you can have here. You know, there are best trips, good trips. I kind of listed them out in the kind they are. But there's no better place to be in harness racing than on the front.
Yeah, I completely agree. This has become a speed type of game. Look at horses like Green Shoe, who had to rate from off the pace and come from behind from the 3rd or 4th position. But then you have horses like Southwind Amazon, who for the longest time had to be on the lead. And so if you're on the lead, listen, you can control the fractions, ration it out, and maybe try to steal a half or a quarter.
Some of the good trips we have up there are pocket, first over, second over. First over is a trip that was never considered to be a good trip years ago, but it seems like as speed keeps holding on more and more as the evolution of harness racing develops, first over is becoming a better and better spot.
Yeah, a lot of people say track, for instance, like Harris, Philadelphia, first up is actually where you want to be and grinding away on the outside. And, you know, if the speed just happens to fall apart, first up is actually the best place to be.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at this video we have from the North America Cup this year. And we're going to just use it to show you some trips here. The 4 is on the lead. That's working on the mystery. That's what we mean on the front. The 3 is Better's Wish. That's what we mean as a horse in the pocket. And we're going to freeze it soon. And you're going to see, we'll just kind of give you an idea where everyone is. The 8 is Captain Crunch, who ends up winning the race. He's considered to be first over here. The horse that's second over, and we said Cover Trip,
yep,
that's Captain Victorious. And then there's others in here as well that you can discuss as far as the 3-hole, the 4-hole, just going back through the field.
Yeah, taking a look at it, I mean, you know, Better's Wish, if there was a passing lane, would be in a perfect striking position, riding in what we call the pocket. As you said before, Captain Crunch is first up to the outside. He actually got lucky into a pace that fell apart in this race because they went really quick fractions early, 26, and then right back with a 26 and 4 second quarter. And then second over on the outside is Captain Victorious. And Captain Victorious, Derek, in this race actually closed from off the pace. He finished very well well for the Ron Burke stable. And then, of course, you have third up on the outside there is the 7. I believe that is Yannick Gingras, and he was actually into a good striking position as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just about trying to figure out where everyone is, just so everyone has a better idea of what all the terminology means, because you're going to see this terminology when you look at a program or whatever, and you're going to be wondering what it means, or even if you discuss it with someone at the track, it's good to have an idea of what the logo is, lingo is, and this way they understand what you're talking about. We're going to move on to our third slide, which is how to handicap with trips. And the first thing you look at there is to evaluate the race. Which horses have early speed? And you're going to find out that harness racing is very much a speed game. We mentioned it earlier. And it's not too hard to look at the program and figure out which horses are going to be able to leave the gate.
Yeah, it's not hard at all. You can tell who was compromised by post in their last start and who likes to leave off the gate. Use Southwind Amazon as an example. You'll see all ones down the side of the program, meaning he likes to be on the front. And when I handicap these kinds of races, I'm looking at the first quarter split and figuring out who's going to be where and try to maybe jot down who I think might be where, and that's how I start my handicapping process.
Our second bullet, which horses are contenders. Basically what this means is when you look at the program, you're going to have, even if you just look at the final times of the races, you could look at the final times of the races as long as they're on a similar size track, a half to a half, a 5/8 to a 5/8, you could basically tell which horses in that race are going to be contenders in the race and compete.
Yeah, for sure you can. There used to be in the front of programs, and I think there still might be, like kind of a track configuration type of deal where you would add a second for, say, Balmoral or Maywood or Harris Philly. And a lot of programs don't have that anymore. So trying to figure out that speed kind of rating is what makes it a little bit tough. But if you watch replays, that could also help you a little bit as well.
And what we have up there as far as write it down, it's basically telling you to almost draw yourself a picture of how the race is going to go. That's what trip handicapping is. You can use, draw yourself literally draw yourself a picture with numbers. You could write on the program, leave, take back, or maybe pocket or uncovered, or, just trying to give yourself little reminders as to how the race is going to go. I mean, I would say if a horse is within 5 to 7 lengths on a mile track, they probably are contenders. And on a half-mile track, probably 3 to 5 lengths within the lead are contenders. Once you start getting further back than that, you're probably out of the race.
Yeah, it's a little bit tough from there. And I like that you say write it down, because I take my harness eye and I kind of jot down on at least the first quarter where I think everybody's going to be, and then I kind of approach the race from there.
I mean, you can literally just draw a diagram, right. 4, 3, 2, just on your piece of paper, because it'll give you a good idea, just a picture of the race, so to speak.
Yeah, it's almost like the Timeform US for the thoroughbred players. Up in the upper right-hand corner, they give you the track and kind of how they see the speed of the race going. That's basically what you're doing with the harness eye.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a look at trip handicapping. Michael Carter was happy enough to come here and join us today. And I hope you learned a little bit about harness handicapping, and we'll see you next time. Good luck.